I did start learning.
All right, what do you say we get started? Hey guys, what do you think? Come on in, guys. Grab a seat anywhere. Thanks for coming. So, all right, thanks for coming, everybody. ICO Ottawa Meetup number 3. Tonight we're going to talk about ICO marketing, and of course, seeing as how it's a marketing meetup, you will of course all appreciate my subtitle here, Don't Leave Coin on the Table. First, a little bit of community news. There is apparently a legal blockchain hackathon this weekend here from the February 23rd to 25th. I think, Joe, you're part of that?
Yeah.
Do you want to stand up and...
No, I wasn't talking about that. I meant something else. So,
not the legal hackathon? Okay, so...
Joe, do you want to stand up and tell everybody what's going on?
Sure, should I?
Yeah, of course.
So they're having a hackathon. It's like for lawyers, mixing between lawyers and technology and stuff. And we'll be talking about AI and blockchain, just like hanging out with lawyers. They'll have like, you could ask them all the questions that have to do with between blockchain and law and stuff like that. Highly recommend it over the weekend.
So, what days?
It's on Friday from 4 to 9, and then Sunday and Monday, I think 9 to like 8.
You mean Saturday and Sunday?
Something like that. Yeah, Saturday and Sunday.
Okay.
Bayview, here, right?
Of course.
Yes.
I wasn't sure.
And how would people
I was
register?
like, that's funny, it's Bayview, what's going on?
And how would people register?
You gotta go to the website. If you guys need a link or something like that.
And maybe if you can forward me the website, and I'll post it on our meetupgroup.com, because I know you're posting yours, right?
Yeah.
And is there a cost?
No, it's free.
Okay, so there's free.
You have to hang out with lawyers, but that's the problem.
Yeah.
Well, if all the lawyers are like Lorraine back there, then we'll be all right.
If you want to deal with smart contracts, it's a pretty key place to go.
That's it.
I'll be there.
That's a nice pun. But here's my judgment when I think about events like this. It's free, and apparently there's food. So those are the decision criteria right down there that should lead to an attendance decision. You know
That's
what I'm
why
saying?
the meetup doesn't work, because we don't offer free food. No.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, we have to trade off the free food for the ambience of this fantastic learning environment, right? So, having said that, I wouldn't mind a food sponsor at some point. Maybe it's something that Gabby and I will take a look at next month. But we won't need food for the next meetup, because the next meetup is actually going to be downtown. Lorraine Mastersmith, our resident lawyer in the back, has graciously offered to host the next ICO Ottawa meetup. So we're going to all go downtown to Gallington. I want to make sure that all of you know that you absolutely have to come. And there is going to be food. Lorraine is going to roll out a little bit of the Gowling entertainment budget for us. I mean, I don't think there's going to be like an open bar or anything like that, but certainly there'll be an assortment of snacks for us. And Gowling is going to graciously host us in our next meetup, which conveniently enough and appropriately enough will all be about the regulatory frameworks that have come or are coming up with respect to ICOs. And of course, Gowling's being a prominent law firm is probably our best bet to talk to us about that aspect of the ICO world. So absolutely happy and humbled that Lorraine would grant our little group this audience in the downtown big corporate headquarters. So looking forward to that. Okay. Other crypto news that I've been that I've been paying attention to. The Telegram ICO that's coming up this year. Apparently, the pre-subscriptions are out of control, right? And I know that. Obviously, that subject matter is sort of tangential to what we're talking about here, because the Telegram news is more of an investment decision rather than us running our own ICOs, let's say. But this is going to be the biggest ICO of all time. They've already pre-sold $850 million worth of their token in US dollars. And apparently the demand is so out of control that they're going to revise their target again from $2 billion to $3 billion in their ICO. And they're about to do a second pre-sale round, and they are expecting to pass $1.2 billion overall in that second pre-sale round. So this Telegram ICO is out of control. And of course, everybody knows why. It's because Telegram is the chat app of choice when it comes to ICOs and building community and things like that, right? So, for us who follow this industry, it's actually pretty easy to understand Telegram's significance. And I'm just saying, if anybody seems to have forgotten about Telegram, and I would suggest that you put it back in your radar, because you need to get in there. This is going to be one of these tokens that is going to be a smart investment decision, because the world is hopping on, and we all know that leads to liquidity, and hence an increased price. Okay. Another ICO, or a tokenization, if you will, that has come up that is pretty interesting is the Venezuela token called Petro, right? And they're about to issue a second token as well. But it's really interesting to see a country run an ICO, launch a token, if you will, and back it up against natural resources, which in Venezuela's case is oil. So we're watching that one, although Venezuela itself is not exactly the most reliable country. Sorry, Facebook Live, if any of you Venezuelans are watching out there. But let's face it, we've all heard the news articles about how up and down they are with respect to the stability of a government. So I don't know necessarily if this Venezuela token is something that I would hop on. Watch it for sure, if only just to see how the experiment of a country backs, natural resource backed ICO takes place and how it performs. Who knows? Maybe this is going to work out well for Venezuela, and then based on that success, a lot of other countries will hop on as well. But it's just something to watch out for. Okay. With respect to ICO regulations, obviously since our last meetup, there's articles almost every day on countries that are engaging with ICOs. Italy has launched regulations. Switzerland has leapfrogged everybody else with stable regulations on ICOs. So now, whereas last month, this is what I was talking to you guys before, this stuff is changing so fast that last month we were talking about Belarus and Gibraltar, right? Today, those two countries are so far in the ICO regulation rearview mirror that it's not even worth bringing them up in this conversation, except only to point out how fast the world is moving. Now we're talking about Gibraltar, we're talking about Italy, and we're talking most of all about Switzerland, which has reaffirmed its place as the one of the top crypto kingdoms in the world by lending some stability to ICOs that are launched out of that country. So if anybody here is actually thinking about an ICO, the Belarus days, and for lack of a better option, we were talking about Belarus before, but those Belarus days are now over, and now we can go to a stable country like Switzerland in order to launch an ICO. So just as an aside, that's where Gabby and I have been concentrating most of our research efforts on, in terms of understanding the laws of a local country, now that there seems to be a stable framework developing for Switzerland. Okay? Any questions before I move into slides and our main topic for today? No? All right, good stuff. Go on in. Grab a seat anywhere.
Thank you.
So we're going to talk about ICO marketing today. Do not leave coin on the table, and hopefully some of these marketing tips that are making up my ICO digital footprint, let's say, if you will come to help you guys in terms of whatever research you're doing or whatever company ICO you might be planning, okay? So, as I've said many times in the last 8 months, this ICO execution, these ICO executions are still very, very much about the marketing, okay? And some of the techies in the world might disagree with me, of course. I'm sure Joe will come up to me afterwards and point out that I should be more worried about the technical, but for me, the technical is something that you can always overcome, right? Once you find out your tokenization, or you determine your tokenization on whatever your product is going to be, you've got to get it out there. And especially these days, with ICOs coming out at a rate of about 5 every business day, you got 25, maybe 30 ICOs a week that are coming out. So there's a lot of noise to cut through. And, the marketing and promotional effort that you guys are going to expend on whatever ICOs that you're involved with is going to be massively, massively important, because at this point, you have to cut through the noise, right? So imagine an analogy, let's say, of when it wasn't just with respect to social media, when First, it was just Facebook, and it was easy to reach a lot of people because Facebook was the only social network. And then all of a sudden, Twitter came out, and Instagram came out, and Pinterest came out, and there was social media noise coming from every direction of the online world. And to really make an effort with any digital marketing or any product you were selling with digital marketing, you had to cut through that noise, right? And now with ICOs, the same timeline, the same pathway, if you will, has actually duplicated itself. In the early days of ICOs, like Mastercoin back in 2013, Ethereum back in 2014, they were easy to expose because there was no other ICOs out there in those days. Now you have to really, really cut through the noise, and because of that, you need to absolutely have a world-class marketing effort. Okay, the success or lack thereof of your ICO is going to depend on how well you spread the word, how well you promote your company and your ICO. All right, so tonight, over the next hour or so, next hour and 10 minutes until 8:30, I'll talk about what I see as a great digital footprint, and more than just a digital footprint, because you need to go a little bit old school in this stuff as well. Anyway, an overall marketing footprint, if you will, that will hopefully serve as a template that you guys can either just use as is, or add your own little special spice to it and come up with your own version that works for whatever it is you guys are doing. Okay, so of course the core is digital marketing and growth hacking, because you need to get a little bit advanced on this stuff. Influencers are a huge factor, and one of my slides this evening is actually going to talk about influencers. Community is absolutely essential. Building a community on the established chat apps of the world, of course, the main one in the crypto world, again, being Telegram, which is why their ICO is going to do so well. Promotional efforts, public relations, and last but not least, direct outreach. Okay, when I say direct outreach, I'm talking about an actual pick up the phone sales effort. All right. Public relations, of course, deals with making friends with your local bloggers, tech journalists, et cetera, in order to have them hopefully write articles on you. Because an article that's well placed in one of the big tech blogs these days is going to really serve you well with an ROI that's hundreds of times more than simple digital marketing efforts. All right, so we'll see that in later slides, of course. All right, you guys have probably seen this slide before. Your initial digital footprint to get started on a pre-sale, which is the beginning of your journey, let's say, is you have to have your great white paper. You have to have a proper landing page that reduces buy friction. And we're going to actually take a look at a couple of demos at the end of my slides in terms of what I think is a decent landing page, let's say, okay? If you're going to do your tokens in advance and actually expend those resources to get your token up and running before you do your pre-sale, then you don't need a SAFT agreement, okay? But most ICOs these days are simply launching right into the pre-sale effort and simply using what's called a SAFT agreement, simple agreement for future tokens, right? It's basically a fancy IOU, right? So Gabby here, I'm running an ICO, and Gabby here donates to the ICO, because you can't use the word invest, so let's use the word donate. And Gabby is, being a smart investor, is going to look at my white paper, and he's going to look at my SAFT agreement, right? And he's going to make a determination on whether he wants to donate to the ICO based on the terms and conditions of that white paper and that simple agreement for future tokens, right? And if my terms of service, let's say, are insufficient, in other words, what are some of the things that you were talking about before with respect to warning flags that you look for when reading through a white paper and a SAFT agreement?
Well, basically locked into a contract. You have no way of redeeming your tokens or redeeming your cash back out of it. I'm going to tell you that you have to go to a little village in Belarus and talk to the mayor's helper, to negotiate some sort of deal, and that's going to happen. So you really have to be careful and read your terms and conditions. It's the first thing I do when I look at a white paper. Absolutely the first thing I do. And then you can tell, because really a majority of ICOs today are fraudulent. So just bypass everything. Just go to terms and conditions.
And last but not least, of course, you need a wallet address. And that wallet address, because you're going to actually put it out there on the public domain, you better make sure that you are using a secure wallet, okay? If you're not convinced at the security of your wallet, like if you're not using an industry leader like Coinbase or something like that, then you're just inviting problems, because what's going to happen is when an ICO makes its wallet public, the hackers of the world are all going to congregate about that wallet address, and they're going to try and penetrate the service that wallet belongs to as much as they possibly can. Because again, reminding you before about what I've said in previous meetups about the fact that it's the services that are the weak points with respect to attack vectors from cyber hackers and things like that. Again, you have to actually list your wallet address publicly, and doing that, like I said, you better make sure that your wallet address is at a reliable service. Okay. In the past, most people have used Coinbase for their wallet address because it is the biggest company out there these days. But since we're in Canada, I think it's worth pointing out that a really, really great wallet / mini exchange these days that seems to be getting a lot of traction and is doing things right is called CoinSquare. All right, so you guys, if you're unhappy with Coinbase and their excessive fees and the fact that you can't actually cash out of your cryptocurrency in Canada on the Coinbase Canada version, check out CoinSquare, right? Some reliable guys, and they do actually allow you to cash out of your cryptocurrency in Canada with a connected Canadian bank account. All right. Digital marketing and growth hacking, as you all know, that's kind of my forte. So I personally think that this is very, very important. Other people might disagree with me a little bit, but it lays the foundation for all your other efforts that I listed in my original slide, my first slide, okay? Paid ads is a great way to get started very, very quickly, and it got to the point on Facebook so much, especially with all the fraudulent ICOs out there, that Facebook actually turned off this channel, right? Creating even more of a pent-up demand for paid ads in other various locations, with respect to ICOs, okay? So what you've seen out of paid ads is a lot of that traffic, of course, has gone over to Google, but Google AdWords isn't necessarily a great place to actually put ICO paid advertising, right? So now what you're starting to see is a lot of these coin tracker modules like CoinMarketCap, Live Coin Watch, sites like that are getting a lot of paid ads coming their way, whether they're placed on their actual websites or more frequently what they're doing is they're actually selling placement in their weekly email newsletters. Those kinds of paid ads are actually getting a lot of traction these days. I think at some point, once ICO regulation has started to crystallize itself in the major countries of the world, in our case being the USA and Canada, that Facebook at some point will then allow ICO ads to come back into the picture. But while there's uncertainty, Facebook, like I said, they've cut off the ability to put ICO paid advertising on the Facebook site anywhere. And I believe, although I don't know this for sure, I think they've also cut it off for Instagram as well. So if anybody wants to double check that for me while we're talking with respect to Instagram, much appreciate the news. I haven't actually validated that myself. I've just heard that from a third party, okay? Twitter is actually accepting any paid ad they can get their hands on, but that's just because Twitter accepts any ad from anywhere, anytime, because they are not making very much money. Pinterest doesn't really get a lot of paid ad traffic because the type of demographic that Pinterest caters to is not really an ICO kind of world, okay? LinkedIn, I've started to see a few ICO paid ads on there, and I don't know, LinkedIn is weird in terms of its paid ad effectiveness, and sometimes paid ads really work. Other times, paid ads just totally fail on LinkedIn, right? The type of ad that seems to work best on LinkedIn is recruiting ads. Because let's face it, LinkedIn is all about your own online resume, okay? Most importantly, what I like to do, and what Gabby and I have started to do with our clients that are in the pipeline and things like that, is we make sure that our build-up cycle, time to launch, let's say, is extended, okay? And that means we won't even take a client that wants to get started any sooner than 6 months from the time that they come to us. And one of the reasons why is because we want to actually build a real follower base on social, Twitter, Instagram, that kind of thing, perhaps Facebook as well, and doing it in that traditional growth hacking style where you're going after real followers with proper tools, let's say. You get to skate around any sort of blocking on, like for example, Facebook blocking paid ads. Well, if you build up a real database, like a real community on a Facebook group, that's your community. It's not an ad, right? Again, taking advantage of the organic power of a Facebook feature, like an organic Facebook feature, right? Which has been my thing ever since Facebook came out in 2008. I've always hated the paid ads. I've loved the organic features because that's where the real power is. So if you were to build up a group on your widgets ICO, let's say, and then was able to collect 10 to 20,000 group members that are also interested in widgets, right? Then by the time your ICO comes out, you're going to have an invested community that is probably going to be investing in your ICO from day one, right? It's like selling tickets to a concert in advance. It's the same thing, right? Like, of course, different subject matter, but the process is the same. And building followers is it's one of my defaults. So take it as you will. Hashtag sentiment analysis. All right, this is something that I've been working on for almost a year now at this point, and essentially what that means is that people are making posts every day that qualify themselves as being interested in some sort of a topic, right? So getting back to this has nothing to do with ICOs, but the example I like to use for hashtag sentiment analysis the most is hashtag wedding, or hashtag engaged, sorry. Hashtag engaged means a bride just got engaged, and at some point in the future, she is going to be getting married, which means that every wedding vendor out there is going to want to sell her something because they know that she's going to buy something, right? She's going to she's going to rent a wedding hall, she's going to buy centerpieces, she's going to hire a caterer, she's going to hire a photographer, a videographer, she's going to rent a photo booth, she's going to hire a DJ, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if a lot of you have been to a wedding bridal show kind of thing, but it's packed with vendors that are there to sell stuff to brides, right? So just imagine that every single vendor would salivate over knowing which bride on social used the hashtag engaged, right? And it's the same thing with almost every industry out there. There's always some sort of qualifier that indicates what a user is going to be interested in, right? So if somebody says, I gained a whole bunch of money on Ripple, hashtag XRP, which is XRP, the symbol for Ripple, that indicates that somebody's a Ripple fan, or at the very least, a crypto trader, right? So if you hit those people up after having your automated system, because there's a lot of automated systems for this kind of stuff, a couple of platforms actually, which I publish myself. If you have your system set up to A, source out these posts, and then B, perform some sort of an action that'll bring your profile to the attention of that user, right? So let's say you have widgets ICO, widgets token, and then with your widget token, you have determined that Ripple fans are going to be interested in the widget token as well. So every time somebody uses the hashtag Ripple or hashtag XRP, what you do is you find that post and you reach out to that user, say by auto-liking the post or auto-following the profile, or if you want to get even more brave, auto-commenting on the profile, right? Hey, how you doing? Notice that you like Ripple. Check out this token as well. It's that simple, and you have to leave it as generic as possible, otherwise you're going to get in trouble with Twitter or Instagram kind of thing. And I can teach you ways to get around that too. But the point is that people are qualifying themselves every day, every hour with posts that contain certain keywords and certain hashtags. And with hashtag sentiment analysis, especially in a short-term burst, you can reach millions of people around the world over that 6-month build-up period to build up real followers, okay? Now, the next one, I've actually recently, in the last couple of months, become a big fan of, which is Facebook Live Video, which we are actually executing right now. And the nice thing about Facebook Live Video is that when you are taping that video, as we're doing right now, it shows up at the top of your friends' news feeds. Anybody ever notice why when one of their friends is actually doing something in Facebook Live, you see it as soon as you go on Facebook? It's because the algorithm is configured to give a serious priority to Facebook Live video. And so if you do a lot of Facebook Live video, you're going to reach out to your friends, and it's, whichever your friends are a crypto fan, you're going to be able to guide them somewhere like a group or something like that, okay? With respect to SEO, which is, of course, most people realize that it's the most powerful form of digital marketing. SEO, real strong SEO, is a long-term play, right? So with a short-term burst that you're going to find with respect to, what most ICOs are all about, sometimes that long-term SEO doesn't really make sense. So that's why you see a lot of people defaulting and going straight to Google AdWords and simply just paying for the traffic there. With the long-term run approach, like what Gabby and I are doing in terms of waiting 6 months to go live on the launch, SEO can be effective. You can actually build up real SEO over 6 months so that by the time you get to, oh, by the way, I'm actually going to post a link to these slides online, so you don't have to take a picture of everyone. I mean, do it if you want to, but I'm just saying, like, you don't have to worry about losing the content, okay? So with SEO and waiting, stretching out the build-up period to 6 months, you are able to actually execute a proper SEO campaign, right? So that you, even though it might not show up as, like it might not affect your ranking results tomorrow over your specific keywords, you can actually get into a position where, after 3, 4, 5 months, just before you're ready to actually launch, you're starting to rank for the particular keywords that you're going after, okay? So, lo and behold, when it comes to digital marketing and growth hacking, remember your digital sales funnels basics, because this is still very, very much, mostly a digital marketing campaign. All right, influencers. Those of you who are fans of the ICO world, the crypto world, will have heard, of course, that Floyd Mayweather helped influence Central Bank. Central Bank raised $30 million, mostly based on Floyd Mayweather's recommendation, because he is a famous boxer, even if he is not exactly the most exemplary human being. So, he helped Central raise $30 million just by simply, posing in one of his, social media pictures with a whole bunch of money in his hands and a Centra t-shirt and blah, blah, blah. and lo and behold, $30 million later, he helps raise a lot of money for this ICO, right? So in the right case, you can see, look at Evander Holyfield, right? The young guys like Carlos who don't know anything probably don't remember Evander Holyfield, but anybody over the age of 30 will remember that he was the boxer back in the day, and his influence helped Arise Bank raise $600 million. So you can see that influencer traffic can easily affect an ICO. Like if you were to go and get Britney Spears for some sort of a music-related ICO, you're going to raise a ton of money, right? And it's the same old thing, right? Stars will do radio commercials, TV commercials for various products and things like that. In this case, an ICO is just another product for these influencers, but they can have a devastating effect on your fundraise, okay? You want to actually try and recruit influencers that are in the community, right? So in other words, if you actually had Vitalik Buterin as one of your influencers, depending on what your ICO is, you may be looking at a target of $1 billion, because this guy is world renowned as one of the top 10 crypto guys in the world, right? So, it's probably impossible to get a hold of him for that kind of advocation, let's say. But at the same time, you can see that raising money by using influencers that are actually in the crypto community can be even more devastating than simply raising money through a celebrity. If obtaining an influencer to raise money for your ICO is not possible from the actual crypto community, then if you actually reach out to an influencer who is in the business that you're in, the business line, like say for example Britney Spears' example in the music industry, well then your results can probably be equally as good. So the two communities that I'm talking about that you need to target is, first of all, the crypto community, and then the community of people that are in whatever industry you're in, right? So that's how you have to think about that kind of stuff. Developing relationships with people in the crypto community is a really, really hard thing to do, especially at the top levels. I mean, these people are getting blown up left, right, and center by requests to participate in ICOs every day, to the point where these guys are probably turning off their phones by now. So if you are serious about wanting to reach out to influencers in the crypto community, then the best way to get to know them, start going to the trade shows, the expos, the conventions, right? Most particularly in this continent, the Bitcoin show in Miami in January. So if you actually go to that Bitcoin show, you will meet people in the crypto community, right? They might not be the next version of Vitalik Buterin, but certainly these are where the world's leaders in crypto are congregating, right? If you're not there, you're not meeting them and somebody else is. So think about that as a way of, in terms of if you can stick in trip money, like resource money, to take these trips to the various conventions, it's probably going to pay off in the long run as far as some sort of an ROI, okay? All right, community and promotions, right? Number 1 and 1A and 1B is obviously Telegram, right? Everybody seems to be congregating on Telegram, so absolutely you have to have some sort of a presence on Telegram if you're going to be looked at as serious, right? If you launch your landing page for whatever ICO you're actually talking about, and you don't have a Telegram channel, I mean, this is what people start laughing at you for, right? Subsequent to Telegram, Slack as a support channel is not a bad thing. It's been done by a lot of different communities. Slack hasn't really taken over for Telegram, of course. They're still way behind Telegram in terms of adoption from the ICO community. But at the same time, Slack is a great way of maybe, coming up with a supplementary community to whatever community you have going on Telegram. Maybe you do your direct customer support on Slack and your strategy conversations on Telegram or something like that. Reddit is another one. However, building a Reddit community is a really, really difficult thing. You have to be so genuine, and you have to have a lot of time to invest on Reddit. And the reason why is because they've got these moderators on there that'll hurt your comments if these comments are clearly promotional in nature, right? They'll downvote you, let's say, and you will not survive a mass downvoting episode, let's say. If you get the community riled against you because your comments are so blatantly promotional, then your whatever your comment is going to shoot down so fast that no one's ever going to see it. So you have to really, really be genuine, right? What problem is your company solving? Hopefully your token functionality is actually operating at a level where it's going to really, really help people. There's an opportunity for, to actually make money on the speculation if people buy your token. So these are the things you have to think about when you're going to engage with the Reddit community, okay? Facebook groups. Well, we've already talked about Facebook groups. They're a pretty good resource, if only for the fact that, most of the digital world at this point is already on Facebook. So I think it's a good complement. I don't think it'll ever take the place of a Telegram community, but certainly you could build a Facebook community and then feed people from your Facebook community to your Telegram community and build it up that way. LinkedIn groups, I'm not a fan. I don't really think that LinkedIn groups are useful at all. Some of you might disagree with me, and if you do, that by all means, if you think a LinkedIn group can be effective, great, use it. I honestly, I don't think I'd waste my time. Meetup.com has a really, really unique matching system, as we all know. Anybody who signed up for Meetup.com, and of course all of you have because you're all here, Meetup.com has this matching system where, as an organizer, if I sign up and I link my meetup to 15 different topics, anybody else who's chosen those at least one of those 15 topics is something that they're interested in is going to get an email if they're within 50 miles within the region as to where I'm hosting. So when I first launched this meetup, anybody who had matched my categories, who was 50 miles from the center of Ottawa, got a meetup saying there may be a meetup that here's a meetup you may be interested in, and away you go. And sure enough, we're doing okay so far. So Meetup.com, let's say you had an ICO coming out and you had some budget, right? You had some budget to travel to launch promotional events in every different city, my first step would actually be to hit meetup.com and start launching multiple groups in multiple cities and planning a nationwide tour or an international tour. So in other words, I start up a meetup called Widget ICO Boston, Widget ICO Hartford, Widget ICO New York, Widget ICO Long Island, and so on and so forth. And I'd have myself Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and I'd be going from meetup to meetup to meetup without really worrying too much about my attendance and having to have boots on the ground in all those cities, because meetup is going to do the work for you, right? So imagine this kind of meetup promoting a particular ICO and moving from city to city to city in a 30-day tour, let's say, right? By the end of that 30 days, you will have drummed up so much support because you've shown yourself in person out there, right? And only the most successful ICOs actually show their face in public, right? All the scams, all the fraudulent ICOs that, and obviously Gabby and I both freely admitted that there's a lot of them out there, right? Those are all the ICOs that don't post their team members, that don't actually come and shake your hands in public, right? Don't have a promotional effort, and hence won't get your respect. Whereas if we're out there and we're shaking hands in all kinds of different cities all over Canada and the USA, people are going to say, well, this guy's actually showing his face in public, right? It's kind of like, for example, last night, if anybody watched the town hall of the Parkland shootings. Anybody watch that last night?
Yeah, I watched it.
So weren't you impressed with the fact that Rubio actually showed his face?
He got the biggest donations of almost all Congress people from that art.
Sure, which is another issue, right? But the point is that Rubio has to be respected to some extent for actually attending that event, for showing his face, for facing up to the criticism or the compliments, wherever that might have taken, right? As much as I hate to draw the analogy to that event, the aspect of showing your face in public and answering questions to whatever it is your event is all about has to actually be respected, all right? And it's the same thing in the ICO world. If you have a promotional tour and you are out there and you are shaking hands and making friends and being there to explain whatever it is your product is and what your token is all about and answering whatever questions that people have about your ICO, that's going to drum up business, and that is going to be something that actually helps you raise money according to your targets, okay? And meetup.com and community events, they're sort of one and the same. I don't even know why I put that last line in, so we'll just skip it. All right, Slack and Telegram. Here's just a little bit of a break in our conversation here. The Slack channels that I'm a member of are CoinFund, Waves, and Crypto Minded, okay? And I find that any other Slack channel that, and these are general Slack channels, right? Like they're not ICO specific or anything like that. They're just general cryptocurrency with an ICO slant conversations kind of thing. So you can drum up conversations with other like-minded individuals, right? The ICO Ottawa or the ICO Hub Slack channel that we have, unfortunately, doesn't have enough members yet to actually start getting a lot of daily conversation and things like that, although it's something that I'm interested in long term, and I'm going to keep on pushing that Slack channel. So if any of you are not members of that ICO Hub Slack channel yet, well, there's going to be trouble. So, but in the meantime, all jokes aside, if you're looking for ICO-related conversation and crypto-related conversation, these three groups here on Slack, CoinFund, Waves, and Crypto Minded, are the three best that I've actually encountered so far, okay? When it comes to Telegram, the three communities that I'm a member of that I particularly enjoy the most are Crypto, ICO Countdown, and Crypto Communities, okay? Now, ICO Countdown tends to be, I don't know, it's 50-50 whether you guys are going to like ICO Countdown. It tends to be like these ICO alert websites where you've got the countdowns to, upcoming ICOs that have expired, that kind of thing. Although they do have some good conversation on there as well. So I would suggest that you join all 6 of these and just feel them out for yourself. And if you like them, stay in them. If you don't like them, by all means, feel free to leave. I mean, I'm not promoting them. I don't have any interest in them or anything like that. I'm just suggesting them to all of you guys. as a starting point in order to get some more ICO conversation. Because let's face it, you can only come and see us once a month, right? So what are you going to do in the meantime? These are 6 options you might want to consider. All right, Reddits and, well, I said forums, but there's only one forum I'm going to recommend tonight. These Reddit links here are the Reddits and subreddits that seem to get the most traction out there, okay? And they're more generalized than anything. Obviously, you can tell that because of the names. Cryptocurrency is the Reddit of the Telegram group I just told you about, so they're kind of joined like that. But, I mean, obviously, we're talking about the main Bitcoin forum, or the main Bitcoin Reddit, the main Ethereum Reddit. ICO crypto is a little bit more specific to ICOs. BTC, Bitcoin markets tends to be more about trading and things like that. And, of course, ETH Trader is all about trading as well, okay? With forums, the only one real forum that I'm going to recommend tonight is bitcointalk.org, and it's been around for a long time. It's got a lot of users, so there's a lot of traction out there. I could recommend some more forums, but to be honest with you, I ran out of time on my slides at 5 o'clock, and I just, this was the only one I felt comfortable with recommending, okay? All right, we'll move on to public relations, all right? And there's a guy here in the building, actually. He works directly for Invest Ottawa. His name is Ryan Gibson. And if you guys ever see any blogs on the Invest Ottawa site from Ryan Gibson, the reason I'm pointing his name out is because Ryan used to work for CBC for 8 years. And so Ryan has a real deep understanding of what it takes to get an article in the press. So I would suggest that you actually read everything from the Ryan Gibson byline. Because he really knows what he's doing, right? And of course, why do we want to get knowledge, obtain knowledge on having your articles placed in TV or radio or newspapers? Is because those articles will have such a direct effect on the crypto world, right? Now, not TV and CBC and Global and all that kind of stuff, but we'll get to a slide here in a second. These are your targets with respect to obtaining articles or, incentivizing, not incentive, what's the right word here? Hopefully convincing a blog, a crypto blog, to actually write an article about your ICO, because believe me, they do not write an article about every ICO that comes out, all right? Especially not these big ones, right? So the obvious big ones, I mean, TechCrunch is huge. Mashable is big, although Mashable has branched out into non-technical stuff over the years. So that's maybe not so much of a target anymore, but TechCrunch is definitely one. Boy Genius, Report, Ars Technica, the big generalized tech blogs are always targets. If you can obtain an article or convince a journalist to write an article about your ICO in those big targets, like the TechCrunch, the Ars Technica, et cetera, then you're golden. Because writing unless it's a scathing review, having an article written in those tech blogs is going to pull attention to your ICO. And that's one of those cutting through the noise aspects that I was talking about earlier, right? To cut through the noise, you need to get placement in these big tech blogs, all right? Now, there are a number of ICO-specific blogs, or crypto blogs, if you will, and I've listed a number of targets here that you guys might want to take down as a resource. Again, my slides will go up live, so you don't have to worry about writing all these down. But you can see, like, anyone who's ever read a crypto blog will recognize some of these names, right? CoinDesk is the biggest one. Cointelegraph follows shortly, right? And then you've got a bunch of different blogs that are prominent in certain areas of the world. They're all worth knowing about because they're all indexed highly in Google's PageRank system with relation to any keyword that's going to come out in favor of cryptocurrency, right? So Bitcoin Magazine, Bitcoin Weekly, Cryptorum, Use the Bitcoin. I actually really like Use the Bitcoin. They always come up with some original content that the big ones don't come out with. So I really appreciate Use the Bitcoin. You guys might want to check it out, right? Token Economy, Blockchain Weekly. Blockchain Weekly is more about blockchain in general, as opposed to a specified concentration, like, for example, what we're talking about here tonight with ICOs. So Blockchain Weekly is again, a little bit more blockchain oriented. Still a great resource though, right? Crypto Insider, and then of course, last but not least, Inside Bitcoin, okay? So there are more, right? These are just a summary of the top ones that I tend to look at. But again, it's not an exhaustive list. I'm sure if any one of us started to compile a really, really exhaustive list of all the different crypto blogs out there, it would be 4 times this size. And then even then some, right? So you just got to feel out who you can get a hold of, and again, remember that these blogs, the journalists for these blogs, are all getting hit up to have articles on that particular company's ICO written. So that, again, they're at the point where they're getting choosy as well. If you're able to cut through the noise and convince them to write an article about your ICO, then you're doing a good job. All right, one of the most, actually I think personally, it's the most important aspect of an ICO, especially with respect to the pre-sale, okay? Is my phone okay there?
It's working fine.
Okay, thanks. Is the whales, right? You've got to have a direct outreach department for these whales. You have to have personal relationships, right? You are not going to pull a crypto whale into your ICO with simply a blog article or a Facebook Live ad or growth hacking them on Instagram or Twitter or whatever. You actually have to be prepared to pick up the phone and execute in a traditional sales call type environment, right? Hopefully, the ultimate holy grail of reaching whales, again, is to go to the trade shows. See where they're hanging out. Use your interpersonal skills, well, if you have them, to actually... listen, if Carlos went to one of these trade shows, he would just get all nervous and, he wouldn't be able to make friends or anything like that because he's young and he's impressionable and all that stuff. But someday, Carlos will rise up. So, anyway, listen, all jokes aside, you have to have somebody on your team who's got those interpersonal skills when you go to one of these shows. You have a question? Or you just...
I do though.
Great. Well, here, let me finish the slide and we'll come back to you, okay? So, with respect to whales, these are people with crypto balances in the tens of thousands of Bitcoins, or the hundreds of thousands of Bitcoins, and believe me, they are out there, and I've actually had some experience with some of them in the last few weeks. Their problem, all right, with huge crypto balances like that, is they have limited methods to actually convert their massive cryptocurrency balances into cash. Right? And anybody who's done any reading on this will know exactly what I'm saying and be able to validate, is that there's just not a lot of easy ways. Like, you can't just go to the bank and say, well, I've got $1 million US, I'd like to have 1.4 million Canadian dollars, right? Bank teller, subject to a couple of ID checks, is just going to process it you right then and there. You can't do that with crypto, right? Sometimes for those large amounts, it takes weeks, even months, to actually convert that kind of balance, okay? Whereas investing in ICOs is actually a really, really quick way for a whale to convert some of his or her large crypto balance into another company, right? It's basically just clicking on a send button, with an amount and a send destination wallet address. Next thing you know, they've just donated to your ICO, okay? So because of these problems in extracting their crypto balances, they are more likely than you might think to invest in an ICO. These are smart guys. Obviously, they got into Bitcoin and crypto way sooner than any of us did. So hats off to them, right? At the same time, if you can show them why your company is solving a problem and worthy of assistance, and that you have a good token functionality with respect to whatever your ICO is, then you stand a chance of actually getting these whales participations, okay? And here's what happens when you actually obtain a whale's participation. These whales are often the stars, the influencers, if you will, of the crypto community. They're one and the same. That's why they're stars. So if you get one of these guys participating in your ICO, chances are he's also going to influence for you as well. And often the arrangements are tied together. Yes, I'll invest in your ICO. Yes, I will influence for you. They want to influence for you so that the token will actually rise. Joe, go ahead.
Well, you run the risk of whales of market manipulation on your token, right? Because they have the option of, hitting the swing and just making you fly off the other side. And it's like, so you sort of destabilize your token by letting whales in. And maybe their intention even is to manipulate markets to grow their wealth.
Maybe, and that's up to you as an ICO offering company to do your due diligence, right? Yeah. However, let me tell you something that happened in the last 10 days. Anybody who's been following the blogs and who's been paying attention to the Bitcoin Blockchain Explorer will, of course, know about the $400 million private placement that occurred within the last week.
Yeah.
You've heard about that, right?
It was a
Did you
buyout,
also
right?
take a look at the delta in the price when that $400 million placement went down?
Yeah,
I did.
we're hurting.
No. That $400 million placement,
Oh, when it went down, it pushed everything up.
no, it didn't.
No.
It didn't affect the price at all. It was stagnant. It was like less than -5.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing, right? Let's say you had $100 million, right? And you transferred it to the Binance exchange. And you said to yourself, I'm going to sell my $100 million, not $100 million, $100 million in crypto. And you wanted to cash out, right? I'm going to sell all my crypto on the Binance exchange, right? And so you executed a large series of transactions over and over again. 1 Bitcoin here, 2 Bitcoins there, 3 Bitcoins there, until your $100 million in Bitcoin was converted into cash, okay? That's one way of doing it, and those market manipulations will affect the price. Same thing goes in reverse. If I have $100 million and I want to go and buy crypto and I transfer my $100 million to the Binance exchange and start buying crypto, then of course it's going to force the price up because you're making all these different microtransactions, okay? Whereas if you're doing a private placement, it occurs outside the confines of the exchanges. So nobody knows about it until it's done. And that capital does not enter the exchange framework. So there's no pressure on the prices whatsoever. And this leads me
the traders don't see the liquidity. Yeah, they don't see the order and the liquidity in the order book.
Private,
So this actually leads me to, I'm going to do another shameless plug. Next month, as you know, we're going to Galaxy, and it's going to be regulatory frameworks, okay? 2 months from now, at the end of April, we have an absolute superstar coming in to give the speech on the ICOs on how to value a token, right? So we're actually going to hear from Stephen Davis over here. Steve, wave your hand. Steve has been doing as much blockchain and crypto research as I have, and of course as you have, Joe. We all know how much you've been doing research. But the thing that Stephen has actually been concentrating on is the fundamentals behind a token valuation. And of course, there's not as many fundamentals behind a token as there is, say, in a stock share of a company, right? But they're starting to show, certain fundamental factors that a token can be based on in terms of a valuation, let's say. And that's one of the issues in this whole trading community that isn't being dealt with yet. How do you value a token? I mean, most of us are probably just going to say, I don't know. How do you value a token? Well, you tell me, right? I mean, it's one of those things that the world hasn't really caught up to yet, right? And there's starting to be tools. There's actually a company in the building that's working on a research tool for cryptocurrency right now that's going to be next level. Because right now, all we really have are, maybe a couple of chart analysis tools here and there, and of course, whatever basics that CoinMarketCap offer us and Lifecoin Watch offer us or anything like that, which is really for the professional trader or somebody who wants to take it seriously, are insufficient, right? There's a company in the building, real-time intelligence, big data. The guy's a PhD from Cambridge who's actually putting together the product. I don't know when it's going to come out. Could be a long-term play, but it is coming at some point. And if he's first mover to the market, then it's going to be the default research tool across the world with respect to researching a cryptocurrency. So stay tuned for that. Yes, sir?
Have you heard of CoinLoop?
I have. I haven't played with it too much. Do you want to tell us what it's all about?
Yeah, so CoinLoop is very similar to what you just said, and they try to use a machine learning model to try and guess what price movements are going to occur based on a few different metrics, like sentiment analysis is one of them. There's a few different chart reading metrics as well, based on volume, MACD, so on and so forth.
Have you used it?
Another interesting thing that they do is because all these signals are opened up, right? It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. People see it, they buy it, the price moves up faster than it would have otherwise perhaps.
Sure, there's an acceleration or a deceleration factor on both sides, right? And compounding that is that these exchanges are actually starting to become pretty robust. So there's a lot of, for example, stop loss orders or take profit orders, right? So when a coin in particular starts to fall, right, as it starts to hit all these automated stop loss orders that are in the system, then these stop loss orders tend to accelerate the downfall, right? And that's happening, of course, in the stock markets as well. So it's not unique to the crypto markets. But have you actually used CoinLoop then, or?
Yeah, like if you go to their site, you can see a whole bunch of these indicators, right? And I'm kind of a fundamental investor myself, so I look at it and be like, okay, I kind of believe in this coin, and maybe I'll increase my holdings in it. And then if I think something like really off, for example, I don't really believe in BCH too much, they had a buy order on BCH, and I'm like, okay, pass on this one.
Okay.
And they recently kind of posted a media article as well, because they've been doing this for 6 months to a year now, kind of going over their past calls and straight up saying like, okay, we were wrong here, we were right there, so on and so forth.
So then you're volunteering to do more research on CoinLoop for us for next month.
You know it.
Yes, sir.
What was the name of the company that's here, that's working on the...
I'm sorry, I can't tell you that yet.
Oh, I thought you just said...
No, I actually didn't. I said there is a company working on it, but I didn't say the name.
Oh.
And listen, I'm happy to tell you the name when the product is out there.
I maybe misunderstood what you had said.
No, what I told you about is the actual product that's being worked on, right? And of course, I'm describing it in very general terms, but research tools in the crypto industry right now are such a sensitive thing that, until the product has been validated, et cetera, I'm just not at liberty to tell you the name at this point. Okay, sorry about that.
No.
All right, any other questions before I move on? All right, so we're getting close to the end of the slides. One of the two things that I'm doing these days with respect to a little bit of Jordan's special sauce, if you will, is I'm recommending to people that what they do is they actually have 2 different white papers. Okay, I think this is a hugely important thing, and the reason why is because if you do a business-oriented, plain English white paper, then anybody technical who wants to read about your coin is going to get frustrated. They're going to feel that that's insufficient, right? Whereas anybody who wants to read anybody who wants to read a plain English one, and all you're doing is giving them a technical white paper, then correspondingly they're going to get frustrated as well. So what I like to do is I like to tell people to actually do 2 white papers. Either that or in different words, splitting up your white paper into 2 different versions, so that both the business people and the technical people of the world can actually read about your token through the white paper of their choice. All right, we've seen this executed a couple of times. Even had some, consulting on somebody who was doing this and helped out with them. And the results of their engagement were that much more profound, right? And the way they measured this engagement was that they went on their Google Analytics and they figured out how many new users, new sessions generated by users were coming in on a monthly basis, and then they were comparing the link clicks on each of the different white papers, and I think they had like 97% of their new visitors read one white paper or the other, right? So that's pretty good engagement, right? Whereas, what we've seen in the past, companies who only had one version of a white paper sometimes would fall to 70%, 60% of all new users actually reading their white paper, okay? So splitting up the white papers is one of my 2 big recommendations, okay? And then my second huge recommendation of the night is if you are thinking of executing an ICO, one of the things like I said, my second special sauce here is accept multiple cryptocurrencies, all right? Don't just be like most ICOs and accept either Bitcoin and or Ethereum, right? Accept all of them. What do you care? You can go on Binance and trade them back into Bitcoin anyway. So if you accept all cryptocurrencies, then what you're doing is you're opening yourself up to all the whales in the other cryptos, right? Ripple's worth something, Cardano's worth something, Bitcoin Cash is worth something. These are all prominent cryptocurrencies in the top 20. Why not accept all of the top 20 cryptos? Give people the option of investing in the crypto that they feel like investing in, right? Why cut them off? So think about that, and if you have a contrary opinion, absolutely happy to hear it. But this is something that I actually pretty much believe in, okay? All right, 10 after 8. We've got a couple of demos here tonight. I'm going to pull up. here is an example of a decent landing page for an ICO, okay? Disrespecting your preferences in design or anything like that, there's a few basics that are in here that I tend to like, all right? You've got a ticker up top with current values, and then these guys are, this top row here is basically just pulling off latest prices off the CoinMarketCap API. So it's not like a huge amount of internal coding that's going to slow down your site or anything like that, right? But it does give current values on all the major cryptos, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ripple, etc., okay? And these can actually be interchanged, all right? You've got a ticker. My ICO ends in X number of days, X number of hours, X number of minutes, and seconds, all right? So you can actually see the ticker counting down right now. You've got a summary of where your ICO sits at this point. Now, if you actually are one of those ICOs that's not doing very well, you may actually want to remove that because a bad number will actually serve as a detriment to somebody making a donation decision to participate in your ICO. So whether you leave this number here or not is completely up to you, okay? But it's in there, and you can use it if you want to, okay? You've got your nice title, you've got your white paper link, you've got your presentation link, which is, of course, some sort of fancy corporate video like you might see on a Kickstarter campaign, because that video component of an ICO shares a lot in common with what video you should put in on your Kickstarter campaign, right? So anybody who's had any experience with Kickstarter, you want to put in the same kind of quality. Excuse me. You want to put in the same kind of quality into your ICO video as you would in a Kickstarter video, okay? And that's, whereas Gabby defaults into actually reading terms of service on the white papers to determine which ICO is good and which ICO is bad, I actually like to look at how much effort they've put in to their digital footprint, right? And of course, I'm not saying that, you know, Gabby's checking out the terms of service is a bad thing. I think it's a great thing, right? But my default is to also check out what kind of effort these people put in to their presentation. If it was just a quick little crappy landing page, then you might say to yourself, well, these people didn't put any effort to put it up there. Clearly, they're just trying to scam people on a quick pump and dump, let's say. Whereas if people put in a lot of effort into their digital footprint, they cared about it in terms of bringing you the message of whatever their ICO is all about, that shows me a little bit of authenticity, a little bit of originality, okay? So as we scroll down, you can see the usual aspects of a productive landing page, right? ICOs, legal compliance, live exchanges, Ethereum platform. Clearly this landing page is talking about an ICO that's built over the Ethereum blockchain, right? A section to describe what the coin is all about. Maybe some logos here to list their backers or the people who've recommended them, like as seen in TV or as seen on TV or something like that. A subsection, maybe some charts as to expected you know, rise or hopefully rise of the coin or whatever the coin is. Donation amounts. You know, what they're asking for. So in here, that, you know, in this example, they're asking for 0.0001 of a Bitcoin gets you one of these tokens, right? How many participants? That could be a fake number. It could be real time. Again, just a marketing play. And something I like about this one here is that it's got a nice little timeline, right? So you can issue a timeline of your company, right, in terms of how you arrived at your ICO. And then after that company timeline is over, you've got this nice section on who your team is with nice pictures and things like that. Well, it seems to be mostly white guys, so we'll probably want to change that and maybe add more women in there to get some diversity. But you know, you can see that they're presenting their team in a way that a lot of people would like to see it, right? They're putting LinkedIn links in there so you can click on their LinkedIn link and check them out. And then going along with the team, of course, is their advisory board. And this is where you would hopefully put those whales that you've convinced to participate in your ICO. Who's our advisors? Well, our advisor is whale number one, and he's participated in our ICO. He's also an advisor, and he's also an influencer, right? This is what you expect out of your top people, let's say, okay? Last but not least, you throw in a few media links, maybe some press you know, assuming that you've actually reached a deal with one of those tech blogs to have your article placed, things like that. How to buy our tokens, that's your call to action. Click here, buy now, that kind of thing. And finishing off with your usual footer and all that kind of stuff, okay? So that's an example of a landing page that's fairly well fleshed out, right? You might choose to eliminate some of those sections, and you're free to do so, obviously, to arrive at the landing page that you prefer. But if you buy this kind of theme, because this is a theme off of themeforest.net, so you can go buy this for like $60 or something like that. And if you bought this, then you're free to do whatever you want. But the point is that when you buy a theme like this, all the components are there, and you can choose to do whatever you want with them. Tony, you want to learn something? You want to come in and learn something?
Oh, good luck.
Thanks. Tony Belletti, everybody from the Carlton room. All right, so another demo is here. And you can see it's sort of structured the same way. There's a countdown. There are sections to describe what the ICO is all about. Again, the roadmap, the ICO calendar. This is something that wasn't in the other one. Our awesome team. I like the bigger pictures personally myself, but that's just me as a subjective preference, let's say. You guys might like these smaller pictures. Again, you're free to do whatever you want from a design point of view. Contact us, etc., okay? But what this theme has that the other one didn't have.
It doesn't say how much they collected.
Sorry, say again?
It doesn't say how much they collected.
Yeah, exactly. Hold on a second here. So what this theme has is some code in the back end. Lorraine is going to love this. You actually track your donators. It's got a back end to track all of your different donations, right? And we're still working on the code for this, but the overall objective is to actually adjust the form so that people have to actually scan in their ID, hence taking care of the Know Your Customer compliance, KYC compliance laws, right? So for example here, user management, users in this case are donators, right? So here's all the names, emails, usernames, phone numbers of the people that have theoretically donated to this example ICO, right? And you can see, obviously, we're just dealing with small information at this point. Like if I press on view, right, there's a bunch of information that comes out about that user, donations, email, password, blah, blah, blah. And eventually we're going to expand this to include, like I said, the ability to have a scan of a driver's license or a passport or anything like that, and have it come up here when you actually click on the details for the person's name. Go ahead.
So your know your client requirements are more than just the identification of the investor, right?
Well, I'm still waiting for your email to tell me what they are.
That would be next month.
Oh yeah, like listen, we just started doing this last week. I got bored because Gabby was on
I'm
holidays.
really happy to see that you're doing this, but it means more than just their ID.
So if I ask you for a couple hours, you're not going to bill me, right?
No.
Anyways, you can. The point. This is far from complete. The point is that a responsible ICO execution is going to have some sort of a platform like this, right? Forget about what's here now, right? Imagine, if you will, a whole bunch of other stuff that's falling off this screen that you wouldn't be able to see. You have to actually scroll up to pull up, such as the results of the scan of whatever their ID is, and all of Lorraine's email points that she's going to send me at some point when she gets a free moment, because let's face it, she is a Gowling's lawyer, so she's pretty busy. But at some point, I'm sure I'm going to twist her arm in order to send me a nice summary of all the things that I have to track from a code base like this in order to solve KYC compliance, right? And then having a system like this is actually going to protect you, assuming that I actually do my job properly, right? It's going to protect you guys because let's say there's an issue with, CRA or some sort of law enforcement agency or FinTrack or whatever, and they start coming after you guys. Well, all you have to do is pull up this and say, here you go, FinTrack. There's my data. Have at it. Just don't delete anything, right? And then they're going to be able to say to you, okay, good on you for actually making the effort to do a good tracking job. We're still going to charge you with something, but No, anyway, I'm sorry, all jokes aside. But the point is that to have a nice back end like this that tracks who is donating into your ICO is going to be an important thing, if not already important, okay? It's just that there's not a lot of platforms like this out there. So like I said, I got bored with some spare time and I grabbed some open source code from the web and started to adjust it, and this is what we have so far.
I looked at one today.
Which one?
It's called Catapult, but it's not ready for ICO. They're working on their ICO.
So you volunteered then to keep an eye on Catapult for us?
I absolutely will.
Excellent.
I spoke with the guy today.
I'm gonna have my own little sweatshop going.
Yeah.
Who did you speak to? You said you spoke to the guy.
One of the sales guys at
About the inception.
I had a question on,
Hold on. Okay. There are two more sites that I want to tell you about, and then we're going to open the floor for questions and discussions, and then maybe go home. This site here and this site here are actually worth paying attention to, especially the Smith & Crown one, okay? Unbiased reviews of ICOs. All right, and I actually had my 4 co-op kids from Telfer at Ottawa U find these 2 sites for me, right? Because I've had them on ICO token research all term, and they're doing a good job, and they rank. What are you doing there? It's movie rules, buddy. You got to turn off the phone, eh?
No, just reading the content though.
Oh, okay. So the Smith & Crown one is the one we really like a lot. This one here, RevX, is something we also like as well, and I think that I'm confident enough in these 2 sites to actually recommend that if you want unbiased reviews of ICOs, these 2 sites are 2 sites that you should actually bookmark. All right, so I don't have them in my slides. So this one here is called smithandcrown.com. So you might want to write those down. And then this one here is revx.co. Okay, so check both of those sites out. If you're reviewing tokens for your own investment decisions, this is a decent place to start. Our own research will actually be opened up probably by next meetup, or if not, then perhaps maybe for Steve's meetup, because these reports that my Telfer kids are doing are probably more applicable to what your meetup is going to be about. Okay, so that's all I got for you tonight. I hope you guys learned something. Slides will actually go up. Let's open up the floor for any kinds of questions or anything like that. Go ahead.
I'm kind of curious about the KYC.
Okay.
For putting your personal identification out there.
Sure.
Especially, let's say, an ICO from, let's say, another country, let's say.
Right.
With the growing identity theft and all that stuff.
Okay.
So, like, are you asking for, do you say blot out anything? Like, I've done one before, and they said, okay, send us your driver's license.
Mm-hmm.
But they also said, okay, just black tape over the codes or whatever. Certain things.
I haven't.
I'm curious about the passport one. That's what I was.
Total transparency.
Okay.
I haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
Okay. So this is still very much a work in progress, and I'll tell you what. You just volunteered to look into it between now and the next meetup.
What do you want me to? What would you like me to research?
What you just said.
All right. Okay.
No. What you asked about is how much should you try and protect your identification as you upload, right?
Yes.
I mean, just off the top of my head, I would say that it's just like anything else. If you trust the source that you're uploading to, like if I'm uploading to TD Bank or something like that I know is using a proper, bank level security encryption, let's say, then I might not be as diligent in uploading a scan of my identification or anything like that. Whereas if it's like, some exchange in the middle of Belarus or something like that, then I might be, a little bit more hesitant to upload my identification, okay? Again, still a work in progress, because the ICOs of the world, especially the legitimate ones, are going to have to ask for this stuff, because especially if they're launched from any sort of respectable country, even Switzerland, right? They're as I said before, they're the most recent country that has launched, that has offered ICO regulation, right? Some sort of regulatory framework. And Switzerland, of course, as we know, has been the financial center of the world for, decades, hundreds of years, right? So with that in mind, if you have a Swiss-based ICO asking you for identification so that they can fill their KYC compliance, then you may have no choice. Otherwise, you may just get locked out, right? again, another reason to figure out who's behind the ICO. Do they have any like publicly known talent, stars, world-class investors? I mean, listen, if I see an ICO and Tim Draper is on the board of advisors, I think I'm okay with uploading my identification, right? Whereas if I have my, ICO that I'm looking at and it's like from the middle of Bora Bora or something like that, and there's nobody famous there, and the terms of service, I get Gabby to read them over, and he comes back and he's 2 thumbs down, then I'm probably not going to want to upload my ID. It's, again, case by case. But you know what? If you ever get in a jam, you just call me up and I'll tell you.
All right.
In the back?
Yeah, there's a recent thing, there's a site called Lendroid. I'm not entirely sure of that.
Lendroid is actually run by a friend of mine.
Yeah, well, it's a trading platform. It uses zero export.
Lendroid is a platform for margin traders to borrow money to cover their calls.
Yeah, they have something called a white list. So is that, I don't
margin calls.
Look too deep into it. Is that different from KYC to white listing?
Sorry, say again that last sentence.
They have an authentication policy called whitelisting.
Right.
Or if you want to purchase a token.
Whitelisting in terms of your name?
I'm not sure what it is. I haven't looked at it, but I was wondering if that's similar to KYC, which anybody else uses something.
Not the way I understand it. I mean, Lorraine can correct me if I'm not up to scratch here, but whitelisting for me, in terms of the internet, is whitelisting the ability of some sort of transaction. So in other words, I'm whitelisting Jordan St. Jacques to go and buy part of this ICO kind of thing, right? And if Jordan St. Jacques isn't whitelisted, then Jordan St. Jacques can't participate in the ICO, right? Same thing as email. If I whitelist an email, that email will always end up in my inbox. Whereas if I blacklist an email, it's going to go straight to trash or spam.
So that's by default, everybody is whitelisted, so
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily at all by
it's
default.
similar to, I think, also uploading some documents and things like that, so I don't know how is it.
Well, I'll tell you, the guy who one of the 13 team members of Lendroid is an ex-Invest Ottawa guy. He's a friend of mine. I'll call him up and ask him if you want. No, actually, it's Hasiba one. And everybody knows, well, Hasiba and Vignesh were both two of the 4 co-founders of BitAccess, those Bitcoin ATMs, right? And there was 4 originally. Also Ryan Wallace, who usually comes to the meetups. He's not here tonight, but Ryan was one of the 4 co-founders as well. And they all came out of Grindspace through Invest Ottawa, right? As the drama turns, there was only one co-founder left standing at the end, and that was Mo. But the 4 co-founders are still friends, right? And 2 of the friends, of course, are Vignesh and Hasib. And those are 2 of the primary 13 that are members of the team on Lendroid. And they've raised, well, there's different reports that are coming out, but the last report that I heard, the most reliable, seems to be that they've raised 34,000 Ethereum.
Wow.
So $34 million raise, based on current prices, roughly.
Online is showing 5,000 Ethereum.
What?
Online is showing 5,000 Ethereum.
Well, I got it right from the source, so. Again, those numbers online can be faked.
Was that on the previous year?
Well, as you were saying to me, he raised $50 million.
Could be, maybe.
Probably.
Listen, one thing's for sure. None of us have those Ethereum, right? So whatever they raised, I'm sure they raised a lot of money. Those 13 guys are all prominent in the crypto world. Okay, so raising that much Ethereum in order to start up Lendroid is a great thing for them, right? They've raised a significant amount of Ethereum. I mean, Hasib was the guy that Vitalik was crowd surfing on. They've got access to the top levels of the crypto universe, right? So, what did I say? Oh, sorry, couch surfing. Sorry, I'm tired. All right, any other questions? Comments, concerns? Yes?
Are you going to open source that thing you were showing us with the little dashboard in the back?
I'll tell you what, if you want to buy us some food next week, maybe, or next month, not next month, because actually that's Gowings and they've got a nice entertainment budget. But when we're back here in April and we're, poor again.
Yeah, we're trade services, right? I do some research, you give me our code.
Actually, I'm not, unless there's something proprietary that I need to do that I actually need to spend money on or something like that, I'm probably just going to give it up as open source. It's not really, we're not talking about any difficult technologies here, right? We're talking about PHP, we're talking about JavaScript, MySQL, all libraries that are already open source that I'm just basically piecing together in the first place, right? And plus, I started with an open source script to begin with, so I can't really call it mine, right? Under the terms of the license that I downloaded the open source script from, I am almost obligated to offer it for free. So there you go. Yes, you will get a copy.
And you need to bring food too then.
Oh no, now we're talking about some crazy stuff.
I'm also wondering, so do you think, like there's two broad categories of tokens, right? You have securities tokens and then utility tokens. Do you think that the KYC ML requirements for utility tokens is the same as those for securities tokens?
Lorraine?
Yeah, so, if it's a true utility token.
That's all, folks. Shutting down the Facebook Live video.